All right, everybody. Hi, this is Joel Marquez, the Bluebeam product expert here at Orange Blade Consultants, and we are ready to begin another Orange Blade webinar. And this time out, we're going to be talking about the sets feature. Now, as always, we're recording the webinar session, and within the next day, it'll be posted to orangeblade.com. Look out for an email notification announcing the availability of the recording. We won't be able to answer questions on the fly during the webinar itself like we usually do, but if you do come up with a question, please feel free to send us an email at training@orangeblade.com. That's the email that I'm pointing to right now, training@orangeblade.com, and we will get back to you. And speaking of training, we do a lot of that here at Orange Blade Consultants. So if you're interested in either a customized webinar or live on-site training, send us an email at training@orangeblade.com. So let's just jump into it right now. So here's what we're going to cover in our webinar today. We're going to be talking about what a set is. And after we define what a set is, we'll talk about how to put a set together. So putting a set together has several different components to it. We'll be talking about how to first prepare your document set so that it can be added to a Bluebeam set. Then we'll talk about how to assemble the set, how to put it together. And then finally, at the end, we'll talk about how to add revisions to your set. All right, so let's talk about the set. What is a set? So here's our definition for a set, and this is a definition that doesn't have a lot of context to it in first, but it's a good starting point. So let's talk about what a set is. Sets is a feature in Bluebeam Revu that allows you to organize many individual PDFs as if they were a single PDF. Well, why is that useful? Why is that a feature at all? And the reason that this feature exists is that there's a problem in the large format PDF usage that comes about because having a large PDF, large as in not only the size of the pages, but the number of pages in it, creates the problem of having a PDF that can be very difficult to work with. In the construction, architectural, or engineering space, when we are dealing with large PDFs and a large number of pages, the biggest problem is what happens, how do we manage that kind of a document? We can frequently run into problems when the pages can't easily be sent to other people that we're working with. So if you've got a document that consists of over 50 pages, sometimes running into the hundreds of pages, that's not an easy document to send to somebody. It's not something that you can easily email to somebody. And furthermore, what happens if there are revisions to individual pages in that large document? How do you deal with that? How do you manage that kind of a workflow? How do you add pages that are revisions? Do you get rid of the outdated or superseded pages? Do you delete them entirely, or do you just add them without deleting the old pages? It's frequently useful to be able to compare superseded pages to the current pages, but if you do that, if you are simply adding new pages to an existing document, you're still left with the same problem of how to deal with the large size and how unwieldy it is to manage that kind of a document. And furthermore, if you have an audience that only needs some of those pages and not the whole set, how do you keep track of which pages are the most current revisions without sending the whole file? And how do you account for the pages if you're dealing with a large number of people? Unless you have some kind of standard of handling revision pages, the problem that can come about is having confusion over which pages are the most current. So Bluebeam's solution to this is to break up the individual break up the large PDF into individual one-page PDFs, and then use the Bluebeam Revu program as a set viewer, a program that can keep track of where all those individual PDFs are and allow you to view them as if they were a single PDF. So that's what we're going to explore now. We're going to explore how to put something like that together, but now we have a common starting point, which lets us figure out how to use this feature. So here's what we need to do. We need to first prepare the set. Now I'm going to open up a document over here, and this is my large format document. This is really 33 pages, but you can easily imagine doing something like this for a document that might be 10 times the size of this. So the principle that we're going to explore here can be applied to a 33-page document as well as a 330-page document. So let's take a look at this document by going to our tab access menu and choosing thumbnails. And if we look in the thumbnails tab, we can see that each page is numbered using a simple Arabic numbering sequence here as a default. Now these pages here don't really give us a lot to go on because these are just simple numbers, and it doesn't tell us which page is which given the information that is typically stored in the title block of a large format drawing. So let's take a look at one of these pages. Here's page 3. Down in the lower right corner, we have the information that we need to keep track of these pages. What we'd like to do is to number our pages based on this numbering sequence that we have in the title block. Now, it's possible to enter this information into these page labels manually just by double-clicking into the field here and typing in the contents of what we want the label to be. But we have 33 pages here, and if you can imagine trying to do this on a 330-page document, typing in each page manually will be a problem. So Bluebeam has a feature called AutoMark. And if you're following along here, keep paying attention to the term AutoMark because it's going to come up again. The AutoMark feature allows us to scan a certain part of the page so that we can extract that information and use it in order to add it to our page labels. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to go up to my thumbnails tab and click on this button. That brings up this dialog box, and to AutoMark a page, we want to choose Page Region and then hit the Select button. And that will allow us to draw a rectangle around the information that we want to scan. When I do that and release the mouse, I get this dialog box here, which tells us exactly what it is that we're scanning. So for this page, what we scanned was this sequence right here. So what's going to happen now is Bluebeam's going to let us do this for every page in the document. So we have to make sure that we choose the page range to scan, and we're going to do this for all pages. When I hit the OK button, the program goes through every single page and scans what it finds in this area of the page. And so you can see it did that for all these pages except for page 1. And the reason, as you might have guessed, is that when we go to page 1, we can see that there's no title block, so there's no information there. Now I'm going to just manually add the page numbering information just by double-clicking on the number and typing in the right label. So now we're set. This gets us to step one, which is allowing us to label each page appropriately so that now we can extract all of our pages as single one-page PDFs. So I'm going to right-click on one of these pages here to get our context menu. And one of the options in here is extract pages. So we'll choose that, and we will make sure that we extract every single page here in the document. We want to make sure that we do not delete the pages after extracting, because that will delete these pages from the original document, and we want to keep that around. The next thing we want to make sure of is that we choose to extract all the pages as separate one-page files and use the page label to name the files. So now you can see why we chose to use that auto mark feature to label the pages appropriately. All right, for those of you who are just joining us, we have we've actually been running the webinar for about 13 minutes already. So apologies for that. There was actually a technical difficulty that we had with the webinar. So I'm going to start over from the beginning because everyone is joining us right now. It looks like our attendee list is popping open. So let me just go ahead and get us back to the beginning of our session here. And this will just take a minute here. And then we'll just start over and make sure that everybody is on board. So before we begin. Okay, it looks like we are getting more and more attendees here joining us. So I'm just going to wait about 2 or 3 minutes. And again, apologies for the technical problem in getting everybody on board. Okay, everybody. We're going to go ahead and begin the webinar. Unfortunately, it's just we had a late start to this because of technical difficulties. So I'm going to go ahead and begin the webinar from scratch here. So welcome to another Bluebeam Revu webinar brought to you by Orange Blade Consultants. We are recording this webinar session, and within the next day, it will be posted to orangeblade.com. So look for an email notification announcing the availability of the recording. Now, as I can see, everybody, we're getting more and more people join us right now. We will not be able to answer questions on the fly during the webinar itself. But if you do come up with a question, please feel free to send us an email at training@orangeblade.com, and that's the email address that I'm pointing to right here. So that's training@orangeblade.com. Speaking of training, we do a lot of that here at Orange Blade Consultants. So if you're interested in either a customized webinar or a live on-site training, please send us an email, again, at training@orangeblade.com. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Here's our agenda for the material that we're going to be covering today. We're going to start off with defining a set. We want to talk about what a set is before we jump in and try to use it. We'll talk about what it is as well as the problem that sets will solve. Then once we have an idea of what sets are, then we'll go about creating a set using a sample document by first preparing our sample document and then putting it together in the form of a set. And of course, one of the Bluebeam set's greatest features is being able to add revisions to the set. So that's what we'll wrap up with. Okay, so let's go in and talk about our definition for a set. Now I'm going to give you this definition, which by itself doesn't really explain what sets will accomplish, but it's a good starting point, so we'll all be on the same page about how sets work. So sets is a feature in Bluebeam Revu. It's a feature that allows you to organize many individual PDFs, but treat them as if they were a single PDF. Now you might be asking, why is that important? Why would you want to break up a large PDF into many individual PDFs? And the reason for that goes back to how we treat and work with large-scale documents. The problem that this feature is trying to solve is a problem that emerges from dealing with large format documents that may consist of many pages numbering in the hundreds and sometimes even thousands. So the biggest problem with large documents, large as in many numbers of pages, is that what happens if you have to add revisions to those pages? Now, do you simply take the new pages and insert them into the existing large document? Well, one of the problems with large documents is that it is very large in terms of the amount of hard drive space that it takes up. So these are not files that are easy to email or distribute very easily. So you're dealing with that problem to begin with, but now if you try to add revision pages to it, now you're left with the problem of how to integrate those new pages in the original document, but also what to do with the older pages, the superseded pages. How do you treat those? Do you just get rid of them? Do you leave them around for comparison purposes? And this problem only is magnified as you add further and further revisions to your document. So sets is a feature that Bluebeam developed in order to treat break up these large format documents into smaller one-page PDFs. And that allows us to be able to handle them, distribute them, and keep track of revisions much more easily. So we'll go into the process of first preparing the document by following these steps. So the first thing that we want to do in our document, and here's an example of a document. This is just a 33-page document. It's actually on the smaller side of documents, but it'll serve our purposes. And the principles that we're about to follow here apply regardless of whether we're dealing with a document like this or something 10 times its size. So what we'll want to do, first of all, is take a look at our Thumbnails tab. And as we can see in the Thumbnails tab, each page here is tracked by this number. This is called the page label. Now, the page label is actually something that we can change. By default, it's given this Arabic numbering sequence. But what we would like to do in order to keep track of it better is to be able to use the naming convention that we see used in the title block of each sheet. Now, it's possible for us to manually enter the sheet number into each page by double-clicking on the page label and entering the information that we want to use. Now, this is very time-consuming as a manual process, but Bluebeam has the ability to automate this using a feature called AutoMark. So keep track of that term, AutoMark, because it will come up again when we start to assemble our sheet. For now, we'll use the AutoMark feature by going to the Thumbnails tab and clicking on this button, Create Page Labels. And that brings up this dialog box here that allows us to create new page labels based on information that's on each sheet. So I'm going to click on this Page Region button and then choose the Select button. And that allows me to draw a rectangle on the page in a location that I believe to be consistent on every single page. So I just drew a rectangle there and released the mouse, and this is what I get. The program was able to scan that rectangle and found this information, which is giving me as a preview. And so it'll scan each location, each page in that same location, looking for information that it can convert into a page label. So I'm going to hit the OK button right now, make sure that our page range is set for all pages, and then hit the OK button. Now you can see what just happened here. Bluebeam was able to scan every page and rename each page label with the content that it found in the title block. But it was not able to do that for the first page because, as we can see on the first page, there is no title block. So we'll enter in the information manually. So let's find out what that information here is. So I'm going to double click on the page label here and type in the information manually, and then hit enter. Now we have properly renamed each page to its corresponding page label. But now our next step is to extract every page and then save it to a location on our hard drive. So I'm going to right click on any of these pages and choose Extract Pages. And I want to make sure that the range of pages that I've selected to extract is the entire document. Now, I also want to make sure that I do not delete pages after extracting, because that will delete all the pages in the document because we're extracting all pages, and we want to keep that document as is. Now, here's are the important checkboxes. We want to make sure to extract each of the pages as separate files. So that will take each of these pages, and then if we have this checkbox selected, it will use the page label to name each of those files. All right, now, and just as another note here, make sure that you do not select Open Files after extraction, because obviously that will open each of these pages, which is not as big of a problem with 33 pages as it is for 330 pages. So now I'm going to hit the OK button, and it's going to prompt me to save the files to a folder. I'm going to use this folder right here and hit the Select Folder button. And it does it very quickly, so all those pages are now stored in that folder. Okay, so that was the first step. We have split the pages into individual one-page PDFs. So now let's go to our next step here. We want to assemble the set. So to assemble the set based on the PDFs that we just created, we'll want to go to the Sets tab. So let's open up the Sets tab up here. We'll go to our Tab Access menu and choose the Sets option, and that gives us well, it would give us a blank tab here, but I was working on a set earlier, so I closed that out, and now this is what we'll see if we choose the Sets tab. So to start creating a new set, we'll click on this pull-down menu down here and choose the New Set button. And that gives us our Sets Manager. So here, we will create a new set, or we will add files to our new set by going down to this button right here. Now, we want to click on this pull-down menu and choose Add Folder, because we want to choose to add all the files in that one folder. So I'm going to choose Add Folder and navigate to the folder that I saved all those files to and hit the Select Folder button. And these are the files that I extracted, and they've been added to our set list. Now, hopefully you can see what's going on here. Bluebeam is using the sets feature to not combine the pages, but to leave them where we extracted them to, and then just keep track of where they are. So we're not actually combining them to create one large PDF. We're just keeping track of where these pages are. All right, now the next thing that we need to do here is to define tags for our set. Now, what are tags? Now, tags are metadata that Bluebeam puts into each of these PDFs to keep track of those PDFs. Now, it's best demonstrated by clicking on the Options button over here and choosing the Tags tab. These are the tags that we have the option to include as we're building our sets. And I'm just going to use these ones here. I could create new ones if I wanted to, but I'm just going to use the ones that we have here. Because as you can see from this column here, these two tags will be auto-marked. And remember that auto-marking process that we used before in the Thumbnails tab. We're going to apply that auto-mark to each individual sheet here, and then Bluebeam is going to build a tag for each of those, of that content that it scans for, and that's how it's going to keep track of each page. Now, this is going to help us because as new revisions get added to a set, the auto-mark will scan the sheet name and the sheet number, and if it finds a duplicate, it's going to assume that that's the next revision number. So it's going to do all that under the hood, but we have to apply the first auto-mark for this, for the first set of pages that we add. Now, the way that it's going to do this is in the order listed here. So in my mind, when I think of how these, the tag name should work, is that I usually think of the number of the sheet first. That's the that was the numbering convention that we saw applied to the page labels, like A101 and A201. I think of that first. So I'm going to click on this in the list here and then move it up. So now it's going to prompt me for the sheet number first, and then it's going to prompt me for the sheet name or the sheet title. All right, now I'm going to hit the OK button. And when I hit the OK button at the Sets Manager, it's going to prompt me to auto-mark the sheet number for our pages. So I'm going to hit the Select button, and I'm going to use my mouse wheel to zoom into the title block and draw a rectangle around the sheet number. And this is what it previews. So it's that's what it's where it's going to scan for every page that we added to our set. Now, when I hit the OK button here, you might be thinking ahead and wondering what's going to happen when it runs into that first page that does not have the title block on it. And this is what it found. There's nothing in there, so it's prompting me again. Bluebeam is assuming that because it was not able to find any content in any title block here, that the sheet number is going to be somewhere else on the page. So we can either skip this and let it go untagged, or we can find out where that where the location for that sheet number is in this page. So I'm going to hit the Select button, zoom in to the sheet number, and draw a rectangle around it. And there's what it finds. So I'm going to hit the OK button again. And now it goes to the sheet name. So this is the second tag we're going to apply. Now the sheet name is this content right here. So I'm going to hit the Select button and draw a rectangle around the sheet name, or in this format, it's called the sheet title, but it's the same thing. And this is what it scans, and that's the area it's going to look for our remaining pages. And there it goes, scanning and adding the tags. And now, as you might have expected, the first page is being prompted for again. So I'm gonna draw a rectangle around this sheet title right here, and then hit the OK button. And this is what we get. So I'm going to expand this so that you can see the tags that Bluebeam is using. It was successfully able to scan each sheet number as well as each sheet name. And because these are all unique tags, the revision number is labeled 0. All right, so we'll hit the OK button now. And the program is going to apply those tags to each of the pages. And we'll just hit the OK button again. And that gives us our list of pages. So here we are in the Sets tab, and we can see that each of these pages here represents a separate individual one-page PDFs. So if we click on one of these pages, it opens that page in the document window. And if we click on any of the other pages, it closes the earlier page and opens up the new page. So each page is viewed in a separate, or in its own tab, and then when we try to open up a different page, it closes the previous tab that was opened and opens a new page in that space. So you can see that it looks very similar to the Thumbnails tab. So I'm going to click on the Thumbnails tab over here, but as you can see in the Thumbnails tab, we're not dealing with a 33-page document. We're actually dealing with a one-page document. But in our Sets tab, we can see that what the program is doing here is pointing to the location of those files that we had extracted and remembering where it was, so that it gives us the appearance of viewing a single document. All right, now that's just step one of the equation here. So let me close down all these documents. I'm even going to close down our original document here. And then we want to save the set. So I'm going to just go down here to the pull-down menu on our Sets tab and choose Save Set. So I'm going to just call this our Orange Blade set. Now, Bluebeam will save the file as a unique file, which we can see listed here. It's got its own kind of icon here, and if you double click on it, it will open the set in the Set tab. So it's a unique file name, or a unique file type, and if you double click on it, it will open in the Sets tab. Now, the next thing that we want to do is account for how we would add revisions. If we just had a viewer here, it really wouldn't do us a lot of good, because the name of the game is trying to add revisions efficiently and be able to keep track of them. So to add our revisions, we'll want to go up to the Modify Set button in our tab once we have it open. And here's our list of files in the that we've added to the set. And we'll want to go back down to this menu right here and choose Add Folder. Now we're going to find our revision pages, which are listed right here. I'm just going to click on the folder and hit the Select Folder button. And all these files are listed down here. Now they have a different naming convention than we had before, but you know, if all we used was this naming convention to keep track of our sets, it would make things very difficult, because as we get new revision pages, it's not a guarantee that they'll be named the same as our original pages. So that's the entire purpose of having or keeping track of our pages using tags, which go beyond the name of the files, but actually add metadata to the document that allows us to keep track of these pages. So here are the pages that we've added to our set. And when I hit the OK button, Bluebeam is not going to prompt us for the auto marking because we've saved that auto marking information in the pages already. So, or in the set, so that the program knows where to look in order to extract that information. Now, the problem with this, obviously, is that if you have revision pages that are substantially different in dimension than the earlier sets, then then the tags will be looked for in a different location. But as we can see from our first page here that had no title block, then the program will prompt you to auto mark those new locations in the new pages that have different dimensions. So I hope that makes sense. All right, so I'm just going to hit the OK button, and Bluebeam will automatically assign those tags to the new document. And here's what it finds. Here are the new pages. You can see that it was able to successfully scan the new document. In the title block, it was successfully able to scan the sheet names. And because it was able to find these pages here as duplicates of earlier pages, it now knows that it needs to add a revision number to it. Okay, now if we hit the OK button here, you might imagine that that would be it, and it would just add the pages to the set, but there's actually more that the sets feature does. Because one of the problems that we have when we add new revision pages is that the old superseded pages can be frequently mistaken for the new revision pages. So traditionally, we would had to have stamped the older superseded pages manually, which is a time-consuming process. But Bluebeam allows us to do this automatically. And we're going to hit the OK button right now. The program was able to find which of the new revision pages matched the older pages. And so it's going to prompt us. And it's asking us, do we want to stamp the older pages as superseded? And as a bonus, we have the ability to take any markups that are on those older pages and move them to the revised pages. So if you were worried about old markups being lost, if you add revision pages, then the program will take care of that for you. It will migrate those markups, and it doesn't say so here, but it will also migrate any hyperlinks that you might have in those older pages. So we'll just hit the OK button here, and Bluebeam is now taking those pages and adding stamps to them, and then it's also updating the progress of these tags here, letting us know where the new revisions fit in the order of the set. So we'll just hit the OK button, and now we'll look at the Sets tab and look at what we have. So here is a document that did not have any revisions to it. But if we look at the page directly underneath it, we can see that there is a revision to this page. And here is the revision page. And when I click on it, the tab tells us that this is the file name of the new page. But we also get a left arrow button here. And if we click on it, we can see that the older superseded page is underneath in a stack. So we can toggle back and forth between the pages by clicking on this blue triangle. And if we want to look at that superseded page, we can just click on it, and we can see that there's our older page, but it also has a big stamp on it that says superseded. Now, the program also gives us a lot of other options here. So if we wanted to take a look at a page like, or a stack like this, and do a quick comparison between the current page and the revision page, we can right-click on the stack and choose one of these options here, like Compare Documents, or my favorite, Overlay Pages. If I choose Overlay Pages, here is our Overlay Pages interface. The program has automatically added the pages to be compared, and then we'll hit the OK button, and it creates a new page where we can see where new rooms have been added by seeing where all the colored elements are in the document. Okay, so that is a quick tour through sets. And let's see, we've shown you how to add revision pages, how to add a stamp to the superseded pages. So to wrap this up, I'm just going to add here that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is there is so much more to talk about sets and how they work, including storage. Where do we save these files to? If this test that I just ran is located on my hard drive and it doesn't do anyone else any good because no one else has access to my hard drive. So the key here is to figure out a plan as to how you want to store the files. Obviously, you want to put them in a location that everyone can share, but there are definitely some strategies on how to manage that smoothly, which we didn't touch on today. Some other things to think about are how to navigate through the set. The program has a lot of really cool ways to find things in a set, like using the search feature or using hyperlinks. What happens to your hyperlinks when you create a set? And then finally, how do you archive a set? Do you leave it as is? Is there a way to combine everything together? How do you manage that process of taking a large set like this and rolling it into an as-built or some other archival document? So there is a whole lot more to talk about with sets, but this is just an introduction to sets. So if you have any other questions about sets, again, please feel free to us. And let me show you that email address again, training@orangeblade.com. We're Orangeblade. Here's what we do. We do volume and educational discounts on Bluebeam software. We do web-based and live training. And we also do consulting on solutions, how you can add, how you can best integrate Bluebeam Revu in your current workflows. So just to wrap this up, I'll just leave this contact information on the screen here. And if you want to give us a call directly, you can just use this number. Or if you have any questions about sets, or if you have any question about training in general, just give us an email at training@orangeblade.com. All right, thanks for your time, everybody. And I hope you have a better understanding on sets and get to use it in good health. All right, thanks, everybody.